Maybe we want this on the side.
You can sit on the side if you need to, John.
On its own.
Oh, I do. I'm waiting for Elizabeth. I got a mic.
She's on her way, so.
Oh, can I? I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop talking.
She's walking in.
Take your time. I'm in no hurry. It's all right. I think though I am gonna hand you this. It's about that time. It's on. It's live.
I'm going to test this. Is that so? I don't. Okay, you're good. So even though I don't hear it, you hear it.
You hear it.
Okay, great. Okay, can I set it right there?
It's okay. It's live, so it's okay.
Yeah, I'll be gentle to you.
I'll give Elizabeth this one.
Yes, great. So Elizabeth will be here in a couple minutes. I can give you a little history of our alliance with GEVA before we start. So Brockport has a 25-year educational alliance with GEVA Theatre, which is the professional theatre in Rochester. There are lots of different components to the alliance, but one is that a few times a semester we have someone who works at GEVA or who's, come on in, a guest artist at GEVA, come and do a talk for the whole campus. So that's what this event is. We also have several workshops during the year. Someone from GEVA teaches one of our classes every semester. There are internships at GEVA that are open to any student at Brockport. It doesn't matter what your major is. Here's Elizabeth. She's just going to get a little mic put on. And then someone from GEVA directs one of our shows every season as well. So there are lots of different aspects to the Alliance. It's really a wonderful way for you all to be able to go to see professional theatre and learn from theatre professionals. So that's what you'll be seeing today. And also, hi Elizabeth, come on in.
Hello, I'm so sorry.
Oh, it's fine.
I was having fun with Brockport parking lots.
Yes, well.
So I have gotten to see more of them in the last 10 minutes than I had before.
Well, now
but
you know how
now
many
I know.
we have and how many students we have on
It
campus.
was really exciting.
Yeah.
No. So apologies for being a couple minutes
no
behind.
Problem. Welcome. I was just talking a little bit about our alliance. So,
Great.
And anyway, we're so lucky today to have Elizabeth, who is the artistic director of GEVA, here with us today. And if it's okay with you, I could read your bio.
Okay.
Does that sound?
Sure.
Okay, and then I do have a few questions.
Yes, I'm excited.
Okay. All right. So the other thing, I was just telling you all about our alliance. The other thing is, if you're a theatre major, you get free tickets to all of the shows at GEVA, but then we also do a couple field trips every semester, and your professors will tell you about those field trips. But that's also an awesome way for you to go and see professional theatre, to go and have fun, bring your roommate, go see a great show. And for 2 shows this year, we actually have transportation. There's a coach, a bus. So if transportation is something that's an issue for you or you just don't have a car, make sure you sign up for those ones where we do have the bus and you can just ride the bus to the theatre, party bus. So. All right.
Great. And we'll be excited to see you all when you come.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, I'm going to use this mic, but it's not going to sound funny to you. So, it's my pleasure to introduce Elizabeth Williamson. She is the artistic director of GEVA Theatre, where she launched the 50th anniversary season in 2022. An Obie award-winning director, she's worked on Broadway, off-Broadway, the West End in London, and leading regional theatres nationwide. She was formerly the Associate Artistic Director at Hartford Stage and Pioneer Theatre Company, and she holds degrees from Oxford University and Bennington College, and trained at the École Internationale de Théâtre Jacques Lecoq. How'd I do?
Beautifully done.
Okay, great. So the way this is going to work is I have some questions to ask Elizabeth, and we want your participation as well. So if, as we're talking, if it's okay with you, Elizabeth, if you have a follow-up question you want to ask, you can raise your hand. And we'll also make sure we save time at the end for your questions. Does that sound good? Great. Okay.
It's so nice to be here with all of you. Thank you so much for coming in.
And thank you for taking time out of your extremely busy day
Oh, I'm so happy to be here.
to be here. Okay, so our first question is, can you describe your job at GEVA?
Sure. So, nonprofit theaters are run by dual CEOs. So unlike a lot of other arts organizations, we'll have one CEO, and then whoever is programming the space will often be under them and reporting up to them. But in theater, the models emerged of two people being equally in charge of the company to make sure that the art and the programming has equal weight with the financial needs of the company, the business needs of the company, et cetera. So I'm the artistic director, which is a co-CEO position of GEVA Theatre. GEVA is a nonprofit, so we're run by a board of directors who make sure we stay on mission, stay fiscally in a good position, and are doing what we set out to do in our mission, our vision, our values, our commitments, and with our strategic plan. So as artistic director, I'm responsible for overseeing all of the programs at the theater. So that includes all of the shows we're producing on the main stage as part of our season. I say that, but of course we have two main stages that are both part of our season. So whether we're in our larger space or our smaller space, it's one season across GEVA. I'm responsible for all the shows we're producing, for all the work we're developing, for our education programs, including our extraordinary partnership with you all, our engagement programs where we partner with a number of organizations throughout the greater Rochester area. So if it's a program, if it's something the organization is there to do, that's my responsibility. My co-CEO, our executive director, is responsible for the finances, for HR, for marketing, for fundraising, for all the organizational leadership at the company on that side, to put it in really, really broad strokes.
Great. Okay, perfect. Our next question is, how long have you been at GEVA and why did you want the job?
Oh, that's great. So I'm going into my 4th season here at GEVA, and you know, I'd worked, as Ruth said, I'd worked at 2 other regional theaters for a number of years. I was in Salt Lake City for 4 years, and I was in Hartford, Connecticut for 8 years. And there's something about being at a regional theater and getting to actually work with the same audience, the same communities year in, year out, that provides an incredibly rich experience for artists and for programming. And while I really love working in New York and I love taking shows there, it's a very different experience where every night is a different audience for every Broadway show. Whereas when we're developing a new show here at GEVA, I can say to the playwright, if they say, oh, I'm very worried they didn't laugh as much, I'll say, don't worry, that was our Tuesday night preview house. They pay a lot of attention, but they're not laughers. Tomorrow night we have a lot of laughers. And that ongoing, really rich relationship is so exciting. But what drew me to GEVA in particular was two main things. One was GEVA's longstanding commitment to new work and new voices, to making sure that there's a real focus on developing the stories we want to be telling in our field now and in the future at GEVA. And the other was a growing commitment to those partnerships around our region so that we're making theater in conversation with our partners, whether it's here with you all, with Ganond again, with whom we have an ongoing curatorial relationship, with Ibero in Rochester, who we have a multi-tiered relationship with the libraries, the other schools we have more less formal but ongoing relationships with, which is really thrilling, because then you're programming with people across time and you're part of the larger conversation a city and a region are having.
Thank you. What is your personal journey with theatre making, such as your training, representation, professional development, and so on?
Ooh, this is a long one, so you have to tell me if you want me to say less or say more. But when I was in college, I started thinking I was going to be an actor. And I was acting, I was also doing literature, I was doing different languages, I was excited about a lot of different things. In my junior year, I went and did a semester abroad in London, and that was a theater-focused, acting-focused semester abroad. And I got to work with a really, really wonderful director and acting teacher, Mark Wing Davey, who went on to run NYU's Tisch program, but who is also just an extraordinary actor and director himself. And I still remember a certain point halfway through the semester, he said, Elizabeth, come over here. I was in the middle of acting in a scene at the moment, mind you. And I said, oh, yes, Mark, what's up? I came over and he said, I think you want to be on this side of the table because you're trying to act what you think everyone else should be doing in your reactions. If you're an actor, your job is to act that role, and you're really trying to micromanage the whole scene from inside. He didn't say micromanage, that's my language. And then he let me assistant direct for him as we put together a night of scenes for the culminating project of that semester. And that same semester, I was very lucky to get to do a master class with an extraordinary actor, Fiona Shaw. And she had us put together these pictures. And she said, look, as we think about families on stage, we tend to go into sentimental ideas about how families are. We tend to fall back on cliches, and it's really important as artists to be rigorous about the specificity of those relationships on stage. So make a picture for me that shows your family life. And it was really exciting, and we all did these pictures from our families. And I did one, and after it, the rest of the class came up to me and they were like, oh, that was really good. Don't you think you should be directing? And I was like, well, that was more fun than standing on stages. So then I started directing more, and I ended up with my BA in a mixture of directing and comparative literature because I was already translating things. So I was thinking about, from this side, how do we tell stories? How do we frame the language of the story? How do we put together the team? How do we make those stage pictures, bring in those casts? And I really went on from there. So I ended up doing then my graduate degree in literature. I graduated a little young from college, and I think I didn't feel quite ready to be in New York at 20. So I went and did a master's in European literature. I was really fascinated with Marcel Proust at the time. I started writing my dissertation, and as I was putting it together, I realized that I loved doing the research, but then I wanted to make something with it that was a creative something, not an academic. I didn't want to explain what I'd figured out. I wanted to investigate it live. So then I did move to New York, and I started immediately directing my own projects, often adapting at the same time as directing. So I was always very interested in what the language of the shows is. I was lucky enough to get to do the Lincoln Center Directors Lab the first year I was in the city, and do a workshop of Sarah Kane's 448 Psychosis, which had come out a couple years ago, and that was extraordinary. And I got to do a production of Jean Genet's The Maids at the New York Fringe Festival that summer, and then an adaptation at Here, which had a program for young directors the following summer. From there, I sort of kept on being interested in creating stories, but I got the opportunity to be a dramaturg for the first time because Mary Zimmerman, one of the directors I admire the most, was doing a show about Marcel Proust. And I wrote her just a cold letter. I'd never met her. I wrote Eric Rosen, the artistic director of the company, who was working with her on it. He was directing, she was adapting, and I said, you know, I did my master's on Proust, and gosh, I would love to be in the room. Is there a way I could? And he said, well, if you did your master's on Proust, why don't you come and dramaturg it? And that was the first show I dramaturged, and I found it so thrilling to be able to be part of the creative team, thinking about the structuring of the piece from that seat. And so I went on to do more and more dramaturgy, and that led me to focus a lot on new work development. I had gone back to study in Paris, I should have said that, at the École Jacques Lecoq. It's a physical theater school. It's a school that is about how do we tell stories physically, in our bodies, in stage pictures, on stage. What is the whole world of theater before you say a single word? How does that word then become essential, and how are you carrying the words forward? And for me, as someone who came into theater from a very language-based background, that training was invaluable. And I think I found, as a lot of people find, that whatever you're strongest at, you need to make sure you cover the rest of the bases and really understand how everything else works together. So, but that work in Paris is also very much about making new work. And one of the things the students at the school do is every week you make a new piece. You get together into groups of 3 to 5, and you're making a piece that is your response to a prompt, the show, the 5-minute or 10-minute show that you and the other students want to make. So I was deeply in new work, both from a creation, physical creation perspective, and from my literary background perspective. So I ended up doing a lot of new work development. I got the chance to start a new work program at Pioneer Theater Company, which was how I found myself in Utah. Much to my surprise, it was a wonderful 4 years there. And one of the things I love about being on staff at a theater is I get to be part of telling so many stories. Stories that I would not necessarily be the right artist to be interpreting, directing, writing, or dramaturging, but I can be in support of all of these different voices across the course of a season. And that was also when I really landed in working at a regional theater and thinking about what it is to put together a season and develop new work for that region and for everyone in that region across each season. So from there, I went on to lead new work at Hartford Stage. I was very lucky there to get to commission, dramaturg, develop, and premiere a number of extraordinary artists over the course of many years. A number of those shows we were able to take to Broadway, to the West End in one case. And that really is the fire I return to as a theater maker. To me, that being in the space of making new work, seeing what new worlds the different artists I'm working with are imagining on stage, is what keeps me going, and what makes any of the challenges of producing theater really valuable. And that's a commitment we have here at GEVA as well. So when I got the offer to come lead GEVA, I was very lucky. I was in the middle of a musical development workshop of a new musical called Some Like It Hot, which Matthew Lopez and Amber Ruffin were writing the book for. And I was in the room with them day in, day out as we were putting together our first season. And I still remember sort of going, okay, so what are we working on this scene, and then saying, what do you guys think about this show? What do you think about, what about this? What about so-and-so? And they would say, oh, you should do this, you should do that. And to me, programming is at its most exciting when it is that conversation. So at GEVA, we're really lucky to have 2 artists in residence at any given point who are also part of programming every season. So we meet as a team with our literary manager, resident director, and the artists in residence and go, oh, what artists should we be bringing here? What stories should we be telling? Who's working on what? How do we also have the range of everything we need, including the big populist shows and the specific new shows all coming together to put together a season.
Great. Thank you.
So I know this is kind of a silly question, but what's a typical day for you at GEVA?
That is a great question that I don't have a great answer to. My days are really different depending what we're doing. So for probably 6 weeks of any given year, I'll be in rehearsal directing a show. I'll be planning for that show throughout the year. Some artistic directors direct 2 shows. I haven't had the space since I've been here these last few years to do that, though I have directed out of town. So I think it's important as an artistic director to always stay connected to the process of making theater, whether that's getting to be in the room with other people developing a new show or to be directing a show myself. Say a couple weeks ago, we were very lucky to have our new artist in residence, Jeffrey L. Page, here working on his new commission and getting to pop in and hear what they were working on as they're developing this new musical about Frederick Douglass and the conversations they were having here around Rochester, around Douglass, as they're digging into that material was really exciting. But my days will involve at least, I think every day this week has at least 6 meetings. Meeting prep, there's a lot of the work of running an organization happens in meetings because you need so much input on each of a lot of the questions that come through. So a lot of meetings, some art.
I just wanted to follow up about the Frederick Douglass musical. That sounds so exciting. Do you have an idea of when audiences might be able to get a little sneak peek, or do you have a plan for it?
I do actually. Our literary manager, Fiona Kyle, works with our artists in residence on structuring the development of their processes. And I should say, our artist in residence, Baron Vaughn's solo show, Cycle Breaker, is part of our season this spring. So you should all make sure to see that. It's incredibly exciting. It's wonderful to see Baron working on that. With a new musical, it usually takes around a decade to get from first concept meetings to production. I will say, however, that the team working on this new musical is really driving and are very much, okay, we're going to do this now. We want to build in this time in residence. They're planning. Sometimes you'll have a residency and then artists will figure out when they have time to write something, and then they'll be like, let's schedule the next one. And they're like, let's get the next one scheduled so we can keep moving. So I think we're going to have a second residency early in next semester, and they would like to talk about what they're working on. So we'd love to have you all come and attend that. It won't be anything like here are songs and scenes yet. Maybe there'll be a song, maybe they'll talk about some of the scene work, but they are excited to have that first conversation about what they're working on and how they're making it. So we'll let you know the date.
Great, thank you. I'm going to jump ahead to another question. So do you have any advice for students who are interested in a professional life in the arts? I know we have some theater majors here, some theater minors, some students taking theater, but I think that idea of like, how do you know, I'm sure a lot of us were told by our parents, don't go into the arts, you'll make no money, it's going to be stressful all the time. But what advice would you have for someone who's really interested in working in the arts in some way?
Oh, yeah. I think I was lucky in that respect. My parents are both poets. So when they first met one of my teachers when I was in college, and they were like, oh, he makes a living doing this. He doesn't have to teach, because they both taught in universities as well. So I think they thought this was actually a really practical choice because there's much more money in theater than in poetry. And they were like, great, this should work out. My mom always wanted me to be a dentist, but she took it with a good grace as I went into theater instead. I would say for me, actually getting experience in the professional theater is invaluable. And it was really through those internships and assistantships that I got to do, going into a theater and seeing what all the different jobs are and how it works, that I developed into realizing what I wanted to be doing. I don't think I knew there was such a thing as a dramaturg when I was first in college.
Actually, would you mind explaining what a dramaturg is in case people don't know exactly what that is?
Sure. A dramaturg can do a number of different functions depending on the show. So a dramaturg is working with the director, the playwright, and the creative team on the structure of the show and the world of the show. So sometimes a dramaturg will put together a lot of research around the world of a show so you can get a sense, what was it to live in Manila in the 18th century developing this story? Or how can we, or if it's a futuristic piece, what are the authors drawing on to imagine this future that we're creating it in. In other cases, and this is more the kind of dramaturg I've been over the years, a dramaturg's working kind of like an editor at a publishing house, where they're working with specific writers and working with them to realize their visions. So when I work with playwrights, often I'm trying to think, oh, what isn't quite clear yet? And then what question can I ask them to help them figure out how to make clearer what they're trying to do? So it's not backseat writing. It's not saying, oh, this should be like this, but going, oh, this isn't quite clear. Can I think of the right question to help unlock that? I think often for me, I'll really spend a lot of time thinking, what's the like one or two questions I want to ask? Because I've been in rooms where you get 100 notes and then you're just trying to do the notes rather than have that big picture. Well, rather than give them all the notes of, I think you should do this, this, and this, what's not working and how can you get at it?
Great.
So that's the kind of dramaturg I am.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's good. So, advice.
So I think going to the theater is one of the most important things. And I was lucky to study in Chicago and in London, and I would just go to the theater almost every night. I would get student rush tickets. It's easier in London it was easier at that point in London financially because there would be 12-pound tickets, so it would cost the same as going to a movie. To go in and see something, but a lot of theaters have dress rehearsals. You can usher. When I was in New York as a young artist, I ushered at a lot of theaters so that I would get to see those shows as a volunteer. And I think seeing as much theater as you can so you figure out what's possible and what you're interested in. Seeing backstage what all the different roles are. So you may have a journey like mine or a journey that's more straightforward of this is what I want to do and I'm going to do it. And then I think that the toughest thing in theater and really in any freelance arts career is figuring out how to build your resiliency for rejection. Because a lot, especially of the early days in the theater, will be really putting yourself out there a lot and knowing that when I go into an audition room, I'll see usually at least 8 phenomenal actors for each role. And so if you want to be acting, it's great to get into those audition rooms so you can experience that and realize that if you don't get a role, it's not because you didn't do a good job at all. It's because this was the storytelling that the team was looking for. And then I think making your own work is not putting all your savings into it, but figuring out the way to find the resources to make something yourself is a really great way to figure out what you want to be doing.
Great. How do you personally manage your work-life balance? Because it sounds like if you have 6 meetings every day and then you're driving out here and directing and all of the other stuff, do you have any tips that work really well for you, or is that something you're striving for?
Yes, I think having stepkids is helpful because that simply there are needs at home. And I love them so much. I think it's just essential. I don't think any of us can do our jobs unless we take the time we need to rest. For me, exercise is really essential. If I'm exercising regularly, I usually can stay balanced, but I do really block off my days off and try to respect them as days off as much as I can.
Great. Before I ask you any more questions, would you mind if we got some questions from the
please.
students? Okay. So I'm sure you have a few questions you'd like to ask Elizabeth. Would anyone like to start us off? Don't be shy. This is a great opportunity. Oh, yeah,
Yay.
Tristan. Great. So I'm going to give Tristan the mic. Is that right? Yep. Okay. Here you go, Tristan.
Okay, so I've been acting for years and years at this point, and it's a big passion that I have, and I really want to get into it as like a career job. But as Ruth said, a lot of people tell you like, hey, don't go into like the arts program or whatever, you won't get a lot of money or like a lot of opportunities. Is there like a placeholder kind of job that you can have like until you can like hit big, I want to say, I guess?
Yep, that's great. The question is about the challenge of going into an arts career, and is there a good placeholder job for actors as you're trying to do that? And you know, we'll bring actors in to talk to you over the course of the years, and that's a great question to ask them. And it's something that I will often ask actors when they're talking to students, because almost every actor I know has had a great job that worked out to be the job that would let them keep going. And I think there's actually an actor I worked with a decade ago had a book that I'll check and see if it's been updated. That is about how to make a career as how to make it work livably as an actor moving to New York in particular. In our country, most regional theaters audition in New York, so the large majority of actors who are working mainly in theater live in New York. Then you can audition for all the different regional theaters across the country and go out to them from there. Chicago has also a group of actors that some of the theaters nearer there will audition there, but most theaters audition out of New York. And I've had colleagues and friends who have worked, and the classic ones are as a bartender or as a waiter, but also there are often office jobs where people want someone to be a receptionist or a clerical position of some kind, that they'll build in that freedom that you can go for auditions, and having those conversations as you're putting those together is really smart. I've also known a lot of people working in childcare. Often the hours of that, you can audition during the school day and then be there for the kids in the afternoon. So I think and voice, as you get further on, auditioning for audiobooks, voiceovers, etc., is a great thing, because that's something actors can take with them. So almost every show we do at GEVA will have actors in the cast who are still doing what is in effect their day job, though it's a very important acting job, of recording audiobooks. And so we'll get requests about equipment, about how to make sure that, you know, where can I have the best sound to do my recording in the evening or on my day off.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, but let's ask the actors that when we bring them in.
Yeah, and
too.
they'll be here, I think, 10 days, I think, actors from the play that goes wrong. So,
Yes.
yeah. Other questions? Zach, do you have a question?
Not me. Just notes.
Just notes, okay. Anyone else? Great. Here you go. If you could say your name to us. Say your question.
Hi, I'm Chris.
Hey.
I was just wondering if you would say that the close relationship that you think you've developed with the local audience makes it easier to balance shows that you know are popular and will be successes, and then things that are sort of new or underground, and know that something isn't going to be a major flop if you go to put it out.
I think that's such a great question. It's about the specificity of the audience, really, for each regional theater, and how we balance the popular shows and the lesser known titles. And I think a lot goes into that. We certainly try to cultivate relationships around each show so that we're partnering with other organizations on specific shows to help get the word out about them. But we're also a nonprofit whose mission includes producing shows by less known new writers. So having those newer shows that don't have the title recognition of a popular show is part of our mission, and we plan our budget knowing that some shows will bring in a larger audience and some shows we won't count on bringing in a larger audience. Obviously, we always want to get as many people in as we can. But in the budgeting of putting together a season of theater, it's interesting because you'll often find that a show that brings in a smaller audience but has a smaller cast or a smaller production size will do better overall financially for the company than a really huge musical that brings in a huge audience but also has a certain amount of expense associated with it.
Yeah, great.
Does that answer your question?
For the most part.
Any other questions for Elizabeth? I'll come back up here. I have one more question, and then just check the time too. So, how a lot has changed in theater, I'd say, over the last 10 years. How do you feel that GEVA has shifted and adjusted to try to honor some of those changes and simultaneously stay true to its mission?
I think, almost 20 years ago, a very experienced managing director of a big theater said, we've got a model in regional theaters that was built on a certain level of funding that won't sustain in another 20 years because a lot of the arts funding, there was a huge swell across the country of arts funding going through the 70s and 80s that then started to come down. And so theaters around the country have been looking at what that means in terms of their producing model. And then with the pandemic, a lot of those changes really speeded up because heading into those years, we were also realizing that people were less interested in subscriptions, which have long been the mainstay of regional theaters. That group of people who will say, whatever you produce, I'm in for it. I'm signing up for the season. I'll come to everything. I'll come to the things I already know I'll like, and then I'll be surprised by the other things. And our habits, I hate to say consumers, but as partakers in art and entertainment, our habits have really shifted so that we're much more wired to go, oh, tonight maybe I want to go see this thing, and then go see it in that way. So the regional theaters are, I think, dealing with two big model shifts in terms of our financial models over the last decades of shrinking philanthropy, especially from certain large funders, and a shift away from a subscription model and a subscription base. So there are fewer people who make that. There's still a lot of wonderful people who make that year-long commitment to theaters. So we've been, like every other theater in the country, looking at that and looking at how we use our spaces and how we program our seasons and how we balance the needs of that, while also making sure, as I was saying a minute ago, that our programming is true to that mission, that we are telling a wide array of stories, that we're telling new stories, that we're telling different stories in wonderful, authentic ways with great partners and great artists. So it's a lot of mini shifts to the model at the moment. Some theaters have gone, okay, we're not doing subscriptions anymore. We're fortunate here in Rochester that a lot of people are still doing subscriptions with us. So it's more tweaks to the model.
Yeah, great, thank you.
I have one last question, unless anyone else has a question. So some of our students here have signed up to come and see the play that goes wrong, which I think opens on Saturday.
Yes.
For those who didn't already get a ticket and might be curious, could you talk a little bit about the play and why everyone here should go and see it?
Yes. The Play That Goes Wrong is one of the funniest backstage farces ever created. So it's when I was a kid, Noises Off came out, and it was a huge hit because it gave us this insight into what was happening with actors backstage as things were going wrong on stage. And The Play That Goes Wrong takes that to an even zanier, funnier, more flat-out farce level, that we don't get to go backstage. We are always watching on stage, and we are watching a group of actors in a community theater who've come together to put on a really ambitious show. And from the very first moment of the show, things go wrong. So before the show even starts, there are stagehands out there trying to get the mantelpiece up on the walls, and they can't get the mantelpiece on the walls. And then we have an understudy arrive on stage saying to the stage manager as she comes on, I'm on tonight, I'm going on. So it's everything that can possibly go wrong. It's really fun for theater people because we get a lot of the things that are going wrong. We had our first preview last night. Our general audience was loving it. And I was sitting behind our production manager, and I noticed that the two of us were laughing at various jokes that were not landing with everyone, while there were still huge waves of laughter. I think it works on a lot of different levels.
Great. So
As Elizabeth said, you can get student rush tickets. If you're a theater major, you can see it for free. And if you signed up for the field trip, you can also see it for free. But I hope you'll all consider going and bring a friend. It's a really fun show.
And we'll be bringing 2 of the actors out to talk
Yeah.
in 10 days.
Week after next, yeah.
So if you can see it before then, you'll have great questions for them, and they can give you insight. It is the biggest fights and physical show I've seen in a long, long, long time. So the choreography around movement and fights is amazing to look at, and it'll be great to hear the actors talk about executing it.
Yeah, that'd be great. Awesome.
Great,
Well, thank you,
thank
Elizabeth. So, if you wouldn't mind thanking Elizabeth for coming. Thank you. And,
Thank you all so much. It was really great to talk with you.
yeah, and make sure you keep participating in all the GEVA events we have this semester and beyond. And remember, anyone can sign up for the internships. It's a great way to get experience working in the profession. So, all right.
Thank you all.
Thank you. That goes fast.
I know.
Right, so I will get these to some, let me just